Okay, welcome back to the Gary Hartford Show. Alright, listen up. My battery's going dead. It's about 20 minutes after our last broadcast. I'm about 200 yards away. This is where the trail, past that clearing there, right before that clearing is the trail that if you keep following it back up, and about 200 yards that way is where my dad is on the stand. 200 yards away through the woods, and then the trail keeps on going. Well, it was real spotty with snow, and I'm thinking my dad knows how to track. Alzheimer's or not, he's not that far gone. You know, he's still sharp, but you just tell he's not himself. And so it was spotty with snow, but it was you could leap and kind of step around the islands of snow. It was just real spotty. And then where the sun didn't get at, you'd find a lot more snow. But so anyway, I go down there and I put some footprints in the snow, like in case my dad was to see, like, oh, he went this way. I'm trying to fool my dad so he doesn't come up to me every 15-20 minutes and say, hey, kid, you see anything? Like he did the year before. I want to hunt. And see, that's totally out of character for him. So anyway, I come this way, through here. Okay, there's a lowland down here. And then, look, I'm on the edge of the pines. Look, you can look right down the trail of the pines. So I'm hunting and walking over here. I get over this knoll, and all of a sudden I hear some rustling around. And it's first thing in the morning, opening morning. This is about 8 years ago. And maybe 9 years ago, something like that, 8-9 years ago. And I'm like, what the hell's that? You know, it just sounded too noisy, and it sounded like a couple guys or kids or something rustling around like way bigger than squirrels. It just didn't make sense to me because it was that loud. And I'm up on public hunting land, 3,000 acres of woods. So I start inching my way down to look over that knoll down there, and just snow was just spotty here and there, and all of a sudden it's a freaking buck, like a 8-point buck, chasing 2 does, taking his turns, playing, and kind of not playing, it looked kind of playful to me, but he was trying to, he was in rut, so he's trying to mate with one of these 2. And anyway, they got really suspicious, and you know, my dad, that's another thing he did. He started wearing like Old Spice. He always wore that. Well, I could smell Old Spice on the way in my truck. And I'm like, Dad, yeah, you really doused yourself down with Old Spice. And he's like, yeah, you know. And I go, we're deer hunting. I said, that's going to get into our clothes. I said, we can't go out smelling like Old Spice. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, so I'm thinking, what, did they get a smell of me or something? I gotta speed this up because the battery's gonna die. I freaking look over the knoll, this buck, and he's in between the 2 does, and he's walking like maybe 20 yards away, but a clear shot, side shot, he's going down and below here. I up and lift my head up over that knoll, and I could just see, you know, this top of his back, and I just stepped up a couple steps, and I just had to, he was moving like this fast. So I took it, I put my gun up to my shoulder, aimed, boom, shot. He took off, the does took off. I went down down below here and worked my way down into this, there's like a meadow down there. It's getting too dark. I'll show it to you another time, but just follow me here. I look in the grass, and in between a couple piles of snow down in there he was. I could see his antlers. I'm like, oh my God, I got my buck. Of course, no camera, nothing like that. No. So anyway, I dress him out. I start dragging him out of there, and there wasn't much snow, so he was heavy, and I had a hard time dragging him. He probably dressed out at like around 200 pounds, 205 pounds. And anyway, I had a tough time dragging him out, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I wish I could somehow have my dad help me out. So I'm resting, you know, and I'm trying to take him out of there. You know, it's about 70 yards to where I'm right now till I get to this trail. Then I got another 200 yards to drag him up there. So I'm dragging him. I'm halfway to this point right now. And I'm dragging him up here. And all of a sudden I see somebody in orange coming up, and I'm like, who the hell, who's that? You know, and I got this big buck. I'm kind of proud of it. And I keep dragging it over there. I'm having a tough time. I got it wrapped on my shoulder, a rope. And I get closer. I'm like, oh, it was my dad. He found me. He was on this trail right here. So I'm like, thank God. So I come up to him. I'm like, Dad. And he's like, oh, you got one. And I go, yeah. And he goes, oh, that's a nice one. And I go, thanks. And I go, God, I was happy to see you. I said, it's so heavy for me to drag it. He goes, oh, I'll help you drag it. And he's excited to help me drag it. I'm like, oh, thank God. I don't know how he found me. So we walk, and we're walking another, 25 yards, another 25 yards, another 25 yards. All of a sudden, my dad looks over. He doesn't talk much, because of his Alzheimer's. He didn't talk much before. And he goes, yeah, I got one too. And I go, what? And he goes, what? And I go, what'd you say? And he goes, oh, I got one too. I go, you got one what, a deer? And he goes, yeah. I go, you got a deer? And he goes, yeah. And I go, well, why don't you tell me? And he goes, yeah, telling you now. And I go, a buck? And he goes, no. I go, a doe? And he goes, yeah. I go, well, awesome. We each got our deer. And he's like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, great. So we get up there, and we pass the guy in the ATV. And he's like, oh, nice buck, and I go, thanks a lot. And that's when I first met him. I didn't meet the guy with the handicapped guy with the ATV. I didn't meet him. That was the first time I met him. So we get up there, and he goes, yeah, that your old man, huh? And I go, yeah. He goes, he got one up here. I took a buzz and saw it. And so I go, yeah. He goes, where you parked way out there? And I go, yeah. And he fires up his ATV. He comes up to us. And we're still walking, dragging that buck. He goes, I'll haul him back for you to your truck. You parked over there across, that whole area I first filmed. And I go, yeah. I go, God, thanks. And he goes, yeah, no problem. He goes, yeah, I'm handicapped in Vietnam. And he says, it's the only way I can hunt. And he says, yeah, you can't just drive. I go, I know it. You can't have an ATV without, otherwise everybody would have one out here. He goes, yeah. He goes, it's a great deal for me. He goes, otherwise I couldn't even hunt. I go, you're damn right. So we got to my dad's deer. It's as big as a German Shepherd. I'm not kidding you. A gutted German Shepherd. And I lifted up. First you put load of mine up, and then, it took us two hands. We're both like, and we tied that on there. Dad took the front leg. I took the front leg. My left hand, my weak hand, I lift this deer up, and I'm just like, and throw him on top of my deer. We strap him down and take off. And that guy was like, well, good eating size, because my dad's all serious. He's acting as if his deer is just as big as mine. And that guy was kind of like, well, that's good, be a good eater. And I look over that guy, and when my dad wasn't looking, and I go, he's got Alzheimer's for the first stages. And the guy goes, I know all about it. And I go, yeah. He goes, no, good for you too. You got your deer. And he patted my dad on his back, and he goes, nice shoot. I go, that's my dad, Joe. And the guy says, nice deer, Joe. He says, and my dad goes, thank you. So anyway, the guy brought our deer there, and then he took us one by one. He took my dad, and then I, because both those deer took up all the space. So he took the deer, and a part of me, I hinted to my dad. I go, Dad. I said, what if he takes off with our deer? And my dad goes, he just kind of like a little bit of a laugh, but he didn't really acknowledge it. I thought it was kind of funny. Here, this guy from Vietnam, that's his deal. Goes around and says, yeah, I'll haul your deer out for you. Too bad there's not enough room for you, though, sir, but I'll come back for you. See ya. Which truck is yours? All right, you got your keys. I'll put them in there for you. We didn't give him our keys, but this guy could have quite a scam going. But he didn't. He was legitimate. For now, that's my show. Gary Hartford signing off. And thanks for tuning in. And no wildlife, no squirrels. Didn't even see one squirrel.